All right, here we go. Finance solver, let's do this. Question 3 says determining the payment amount. Here we go. We got a loan of $90,000 to be paid over a period of 30 years. So you can see here, 30 years. I'm just going to highlight that's how long you're going to have this loan for. $90,000 is how much you're borrowing. Interest is charged at a rate of 11% per annum, compounded monthly. Okay, so when you write this down, make sure to just put out all the information that you've got. So here, I want you to use PV. So in my videos, I mentioned about the main terms that you should be using here. PV for present value. You've borrowed $90,000. Now note that when you're borrowing money from the bank, this is considered positive value. Positive because the bank gives you money and you have more money in your pocket. So it's positive. Present value is 90,000. Period is 30 years. And we know the interest rate is 11% per annum. So note that that's for a yearly rate. With a yearly rate here, we want to be compounding monthly. So that means you need to know the rate for per month. So here we go. We're going to find out per month. So in a year, how many months are there? 12. So we know that when we're using the menu finance, which is number 8, finance solver, number 1. So finance menu 1. We know that in 1 year, there are 12 months. So therefore, you need to divide the rate, which is 11, by 12, and that will give you the rate per month. Okay, but since we're using finance solver, you don't actually have to do that. They will do that naturally for you. So how do you tell it that you are going to do it for per month? I'll show you down here. If you have a look, remember, don't press down when you're moving up and down. Make sure to press tab. Otherwise, you move the digits up and down when you get to PPY and CPY down there. But I'm just going to show you. I'm going to delete. Press tab, delete, press tab, delete, press tab, delete, press tab, delete. Yours should probably already be on nothing, but I'm just showing you. So here we go. We've got our calculator there. N tells you the number of times you are going to be compounding within that given period. Now, 30 years, how many months? We said there are 12 months. So in that case, it is 30 years multiplied to 12 months. You can actually just type it in there and it will calculate it. You press tab so that it then calculates to be 360 months. Okay, so that tells me now that's 360 months that is being compounded. The interest rate, we know it's 11%, so you can just write 11. You don't have to change that to per month because the calculator knows to do that. And then over here, how do you tell it's compounding monthly? It's this section down here, PPY. PPY means payments per year. So how many payments will you do? If it's compounded monthly, it's 12 times. Okay, so that tells me it's 12 times. And notice just down below is CPY. What does that mean? That's how many times that compounded interest occurs in a year. Now, most often in all these cases, the amount of payment and the interest go together. Sometimes in a rare case scenario where you pay a certain amount and then interest comes in later, that could happen. But often most cases are what you pay on that day, they also add on interest. So hence, PPY is 12, then CPY is often 12, unless you have a really rare scenario. Okay, so that tells the calculator that it's going to be per month. That's why you don't need to change that 11% to a monthly rate. You can keep it as a yearly rate, and they should figure that out once you tell them it's 12 times a year. Okay, so now going back, I'm going all the way back. PV, that's my present value. I've got $90,000 that I'm borrowing from the bank, and notice I put positive 90,000, not negative. Later on in annuities and perpetuities, you will need to know when to put negatives and not. When it's money out of from the bank, it's positive, and when you're giving money away, that's negative. So be mindful of that. Okay. Now here it asks you to find the monthly payment correct to the nearest cent. Well, if you're paying it monthly over 30 years, what you hope is that the amount over time is that you should owe them nothing. So the FV, which stands for future value, you're expecting your future value after 30 years should be 0. Okay, so if I put in 0 here and I go back up to PMT for payment, PMT means payments, each compounding payment, then the calculator should be able to use all the other parameters and figure out how much you should be paying. So when I press enter in PMT, which I'll go back here, pressing enter, notice it's negative. Why is it negative? It's because it's money out of you. Okay, you're paying the money to the bank. So when it's money coming out of you, it's negative. And this case is telling us that we'll be paying $857 and to the nearest cent is 9 cents. Okay, so I'm going to write here, this is now negative $857.09 is my payment per month. And that's using the finance calculator. Okay, so just being sure of those parameters, PPY, how many times do you pay per year? CPY, how many times does it compound per year? Interest rate, you don't have to change it to monthly, you can keep it as yearly. And PV is 90,000, that's the present value. Okay, and the main thing, if you go back to your calculator, the main thing was N, 30 years, 12 months, 30 times 12, you can type it in and they'll figure it out for you. Okay, next part. So I've done A for you there. B, the total cost of paying off the loan to the nearest dollar. So you want to know after 30 years and you're paying negative, $857.09, how much did you pay in total? How much did you give to the bank? Because remember, you borrowed $90,000, but you're paying them every month, $857 every month for 30 years. So how many times did you pay? 360 times. Over the 30 years, you paid 360 months, and each of those months, you paid $857.09. So to calculate that, you would write total cost has to be $857.09 multiplied to 360 months. That's how many times you would have calculated, well, the total amount. So what you'll find is, if I go back to my calculator, press escape if you want to get out of Finance Solver, and you can see here 857.09 cents multiplied to 360 gives me the total amount, which is $308,552.40. Now that's crazy because you borrowed $90,000, but over the course of 30 years, you now pay back $308,000. That's crazy. You may not realize it over time that you're paying $857, but over 30 years, you've paid now almost 4 times as much, or if not about 3 times, about 3 times as much as what you borrowed over 30 years. Okay, that's why interest is a big part of banks, sort of how they make their money. Okay, through that interest that you pay consistently $857, but over 30 years with the interest compounded, they gain almost 3 times or more than what they should have got. Okay, so in part B, it clearly gives us $308,552.40. That's how much you paid overall. And then finally, C says the total amount of interest paid, correct to nearest $10. Well, that's pretty easy there. If that's how much you spent, then 90,000 is how much you borrowed. So you would then say, this is how much I've paid overall in 30 years, minus 90,000. I've paid now a total of interest of $218,000 in total. So that's a crazy amount of interest based on what they've given us there, 11% per annum. That's huge. Okay, so I'm going to write here 800, take the total, $308,000